welcome to our first center stage session for day 2 of Phocuswright Europe. I am delighted to be joined by Charlotte Franzellin, founder and CEO of Trippers, Vanessa de Souza Lage, co-founder and CMO of Rentals United, and I believe we will have Pavlína Zychová, co-founder and CEO of MyStay, joining us very shortly. She is literally in the midst of some business work right now, so we look forward to her joining us as she can. So welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, in the next 20 minutes, we are going to hear from these 3 travel startup founders about their personal experiences and their thoughts about women in the travel industry at large. So why don't we begin with each of you giving us a very quick description of your company and your role. And Charlotte, maybe we can start with you, and congratulations. I know Trippers just officially launched last week, right?
We did. Thank you so much, Mitra. So yeah, just to go back to myself, I'm the founder and CEO of Trippers, a B2C company helping friends travel together. So we're in the business of short weekend getaways in Europe, providing an all-in-one platform to plan weekend getaways from A to Z, kind of choosing a destination to booking and all the way to choosing where you're going to stop for coffee. So all of that is in our app that's available in the stores since last Tuesday. So it's been a week now. Time flies. And yeah, so personally, I don't come from the travel space. I've been at it for only a year. So I'm very honored to be here with women like Vanessa and Pavlína, who have been at this for years now, being founders. So it's an interesting journey. I'm looking forward to discussing this topic with you all.
Wonderful. Pavlína, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, maybe if you're ready to jump in, we're just doing some quick introductions. If you could just tell us a little bit about MyStay and your role.
Sure. So hello, everyone. I'm Pavlína from MyStay. I'm one of the co-founders and current CEO. What we do with MyStay is that we digitize the reception processes, and we do the very well connection between guests and hotels after the reservation, doing online check-ins, checkouts, payments, issuing the e-keys, having the kiosk, and doing also the upsell and the right connection. We believe that we bring through the digitalization back the hospitality when the receptionist will have more time to care about the guest, not spending time with paperwork and things like that. So this is what we do. And my role is the CEO, so I'm leading the company, and I'm in the company since the very beginning.
Okay, wonderful. And Vanessa?
Hi. I'm Vanessa, co-founder and marketing director of Rentals United. Rentals United is, I would say, the leading channel management company for vacation rentals, short-term rentals. That's our vertical. And we distribute around 170,000 vacation rentals onto large and small listing sites globally. And I'm also the founder of VRTech. VRTech is a platform that allows young startups like you guys in the vacation rental space, though, to promote themselves and to meet people, to network, and that's a side business for me, which I'm very proud of. And thank you for letting me present it today.
Wonderful. Yeah, so it's great. We have a nice span of kind of experience and level of involvement here. So this should be a great discussion. I know, let's start, it's a fact that the travel industry is a male-dominated industry, certainly at the executive level. There are an abundance of statistics that prove that point. For example, a recent study from the Castell Project found that the odds of a woman reaching the executive leadership level in hospitality were just 1 woman to 5.7 men at the end of 2020. And when it comes to tech companies across all verticals, according to a 2020 report from PwC, for the G7 countries, women account for only 30% of the tech workforce. But clearly the 3 of you are defying these odds. I'm interested to know about your experiences. Have you noticed any disadvantages or alternatively advantages to being a woman as you've been building your companies? Or do you think your gender is irrelevant? Anybody want to jump in?
Well, I can start with advantages, maybe not to start negative. So I definitely believe, as we are not that many ladies in tech, it's shining, and it's definitely helping for PR and things like that. So sorry, but it's true. It's girl IT, hospitality, it really works. And so that's definitely the advantage. And the disadvantage, I haven't found any. I don't have any obstacle to be in the position where I am right now. It's just, I think that everyone can, if everyone try, and if everyone wants to. And if you dream about it, you go for it, you do it, and then you're there. I never found any obstacle on get the role that I have right now.
You know, Charlotte, would you agree with that, or has your experience been different so far?
I think I would agree. Well, especially at my level, at a startup level, I think it's as long as you dream for it, you can get it. It's really just a matter of the obstacles you put yourself. But I think when you look at the big corporation, it might be a different story, because it might obviously come from the top, the decision as to who gets to the executive levels. And that obviously isn't so much about what you dream, and it's a lot about what the other people might think of you and view you as a woman versus a man. So yeah, I think in terms of women-led companies, it might not just be that much of an obstacle, but in general, you know, the statistics you said are true. So it is a fact.
Yeah.
I think we have different issues for us than gender issues, because we're at the top, so we can create the companies that we want to create, which are diverse companies, and helping other women under us to move up the ladder. It's completely different issues than the corporate world, right?
Yeah.
But there are, I think there are some challenges when we look at investments. Where the investment world is very much driven by male, right? So it's very lots of diversity, lack of diversity in that world, and I found it at times uncomfortable, the fact that I only pitch to men only in the investor world. So I think for that, it would be nice to have more diversity and to feel more comfortable with VCs. Also, board levels. My board is, for example, all male. And that's a mistake possibly that we made at the beginning that we should have thought of before. I still feel it. I still feel gender inequality in certain aspects of the business.
Sure. A lot to kind of unpack there. First of all, I just want to go back to a point I think a couple of you made, because I think that's interesting, that potentially entrepreneurship does create the opportunity to build companies that are more diverse from the ground up, as opposed to trying to retrofit potentially some of these existing big corporations that are, many very nobly trying to take action now, but it might be harder to move that. So is that something, I mean, would you say you're conscious of that as you're building your companies and for startup founders, that it can start diverse and inclusive from the beginning?
Absolutely. Oh, well, from the beginning, for me, it's been 7 years, but we're completely aligned with HR that, it has to be diverse, and there is a quota even, and it, very much attention to that, to focus on it, because that makes better companies at the end of the day.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about your point about investors, because of course the money piece is a big piece of building a startup for any kind of founder. I found, according to Crunchbase, only 2.3% of VC funding went to women-led startups in 2020, which is actually down from 2.8% in 2019. And I had listened to a TED Talk from a woman named Dana Kahns, who talked about implicit bias in some of these interactions with VCs, where the questions that they tend to ask female founders are very different than the questions they ask male founders. And the questions that female founders are asked are often more about what might go wrong and how they would handle it, what she called the prevention questions. Whereas the men were asked more about their future potential and how they will maximize that. So more of the promotion questions. And therefore that ends up leading to more funding often for the men, because they're able to talk much more optimistically about what they're building. Does that ring true for any of you?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have been receiving the men's questions then. Well, actually, I receive all of them, but I believe that all of them are fair and all of them are good. You always have to make the negative version for you to be ready for things that they can come, so you won't be surprised later on. But everyone asks you the plans, because that's how they make see that the business plan works. And we're now under the VC investment, and I don't feel myself being anyhow, I can't say discriminated, but treated different. It's just,
Okay.
it's all about parables. It's all about how you fight. And if you let someone ask you those stupid questions, then it's up to you to stop them and tell them, whoa, I'll tell you good things. And come on, no one should treat me like different. And everyone tells like, no, sorry, I'm same like everyone else.
Okay, I love your optimism. Any other perspectives around that? Charlotte, you're thinking about going for funding soon?
Yes, so we haven't had one yet. So we're going to go for our first round later this year, so hopefully closing by the end of the year. So kind of looking into the space, meeting up with some initial investors and getting the feel for it. For the investors I've actually spoken to, I've never felt anything, for the fact that I was a woman. I've had this one discussion, I think I mentioned it to you, Mitra, before when we spoke, but I was speaking to an advisor, a mentor, someone that I met was giving us some advice. So we pitched to him. And the first thing he said towards the end of the pitch, we had the team. And in our team, we have one guy. So it's two women and a guy, co-founder. The first thing he said was, why didn't you get him to pitch? It's like, why? It's like, because I think it would go better with investors. I'm like, well, if the investor wants a man, then he doesn't have the right company in front of him. So that's the only thing I ever had, but obviously kind of looking to now going into fundraising, I'm a bit more, a bit put off by that remark and a bit more scared as to what's going to happen when I get there.
I think that's a really important lesson. When you talk to VCs, and do not, I know we're always looking for money as startup funders, but do not accept money from people you don't feel comfortable with. So I think this is really important, that you need to get on with your VC and you should feel completely and utterly comfortable with them, with a male or female.
Yeah. So, I guess the root of the question then, and was kind of the whole purpose of this session to a certain extent, is why don't we have more women launching startups in travel? And what can be done possibly to encourage that more?
We need more visibility. I think what you're putting up today on Phocuswright is amazing. This is exactly what we need more. We need more female on stage. We need more on social networks. We talked about this. There's so many communities now that are looking to help women, mentor them, and they need to make more noise. We need to constantly be at the top of the agenda. This inequality. And your action today is exactly what we need, I think, to be more visible.
Yeah, I think I would say that it should start very early on. So obviously I'm maybe a bit younger than you guys, so I kind of exited university only 4 years ago. And if I think back to my university days, I think in general I would see a lot more men taking entrepreneurship courses and kind of going for that high risk but exciting lifestyle that entrepreneurship gives you. And I think perhaps even just looking at my specific case, if you had asked me 3 years ago, I would have said I would never become an entrepreneur because that's risky. And I don't know, I don't have a passion for anything as of now. So I'm never going to be doing this. I'm going to have my little engineering career and just get it done with because I like it and it's enjoyable. And I think it's kind of that difference between men where sometimes when they're younger, they like the risk and the adventure and just going for it, which might be very rewarding and they might be very successful. Whereas maybe women might come in a bit later. You have that passion and that idea and then you go for it, but you need that passion and the idea to come with, which is what happened to me. But obviously I'm generalizing. It's just my example and my view. But that might be one of the reasons. So really going back to, young people and getting them the feel for what it is to be an entrepreneur and how everyone can do it, even a woman.
Yeah, so
I totally agree with that schooling system and teaching people that it's not a problem to start, not a problem to do, and what are the obstacles and what's good, what's bad. And that the mind, I don't know how is it in your countries, but here it's still like better to be employee than anything else. And I believe that for many reasons, for example, families and also men, also women, be somewhere where it's stable, it's very important. But on the other side, if we teach them and if there are role models or someone who are doing so, which in every country, I believe it's there. And if we also consider that in 18th century or 19th century, it was, the low of the work for women was somewhere else, and it's moving. And so we're in some stage when it's still moving, and we just have to do stuff and show the other people that we can. And I don't think the problem is men. I think the problem is women themselves by stopping them not doing it.
Yeah, and you use the term, we're in that, maybe we had even talked about this idea of a transition period. So, do you feel like we're moving through some changes now, and maybe, how long before we can look back and say, okay, we've made real progress on this topic?
We're definitely in it. You can watch how big differences came from your grandma to your mom and to us right now. Possibilities are unlimited, and this came with internet and all those possibilities. I believe being an entrepreneur is easier than before, and as these options are getting closer to everyone, then it's closer and easier to start, and that's why it's also easier to start to do stuff, and that's why I believe that this praise is step between the, let's say, more people and more women in entrepreneurship, and also in travel, and also in the higher positions. It's just about possibilities.
Yeah, and what about the value and need for mentoring? I know, that's something that a lot. Vanessa, I know you're involved in quite a few things, aren't you?
Yes, I think it's so important, and I wish I had sought mentorship much earlier on. Because we are at the top and it's our companies, you tend to try and do everything yourself, and I wish I had sought mentorship beforehand, and it's so important. And there, as I said, there's so many opportunities now through social networks like LinkedIn. You'll find lots of communities of women that help each other. It's super important to network, to network as much as possible, and let other people help you. Because we think we're all powerful, we can do this, we're strong, we're courageous, but it's good to get a helping hand sometime.
Back in April at the World Travel and Tourism Summit, there was the announcement and launch of a woman's declaration, with a lot of the big companies in travel signing on to that. I'm wondering, just some of the points of that to run through. It's the idea is to remove barriers for women. They agree to create mentorship programs, eliminate the gender pay gap, and by 2030 to increase female representation in leadership by 30 to 50%. And some of those companies I know that have joined that are Expedia, Hilton, Carnival Corporation. Of course, something like this is a step in the right direction, no doubt, but do you think that's a really effective way to bring about change? I guess this starts to get back to the point of trying to change these existing big companies versus more from the ground up.
Mm-hmm. It does shed the light on the fact that there really is a problem, though, which is great. Now it's in front of everybody's mind that there is a problem and we need to tackle it. Now, how they're going to make this accountable, I don't know. Over a 9-year period is complicated, right? And have they made enough noise about it? Has every company in travel been touched by this? I don't know.
Yeah. I guess how many years, this kind of gets back to what we were just discussing, how long before we potentially don't need a separate panel on women in travel?
Good question.
Good question.
I don't know, maybe that's a rhetorical question.
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing the women startup competition for women entrepreneurs, and we already do it for 5 years. And I still believe that this concept will be still working for another years, but it doesn't mean that it's still about encouragement. So next 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it takes time. As Pavlína said, it started in the 18th century and we've come this far, but it still needs to come this far, and it will take the time it needs to take, but we're in the right path. So.
And
meanwhile, please invite us to these events so we can tell other potential founders that, come on, bring it on. You can do it.
Yeah.
So more about generations. So we're generation something doing already really well, and everyone's accepting it. And if you see like another generation, which is younger to us, like 15 years old, you see that they have no differences between girls and boys. They're like unisex dresses, unisex stuff, and they're really very close to each other. So grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, us, them. So it's about generations, I think. We cannot change it from day to day, but it's definitely from decades to decades, but slowly, and it's
But surely.
it's not like buying a chocolate.
Okay, well, we are just about out of time. One final question for each of you. You know, the conference theme is writing the sequel. So as it relates to this topic, would you say the sequel is a story of optimism and progress, or is it sort of the same old tale? Just
of course, optimism and progress, of course. Let's forget 2020 and let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wonderful.
20 brought something. Come on.
Yeah, good to end on a positive note. And thank you all so much for joining us. And we will continue to watch as you develop your companies.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.